Hey guys, MrPokke here, back with another video, and this is gonna be quite out of the ordinary. I just wanted to quickly touch up on how my account managed to beat the full rotation for what is, in my opinion, the most difficult refreshable endgame PvE content in Epic 7, the Azmakalis of Cycle, which is pretty much going to be 5 different PvE bosses, and each one of these different bosses you have to use a specific team. So for example, if you take a look over here, you have Devourer Arahakan, Executioner Carcanis, Secretary Vera, Julevi Council, as well as the Queen herself. Right? So whenever you were to bring one singular team against one of these bosses, the very same 4 units can no longer be used for any of the other 4 bosses, which means you essentially need to build up 20 different units in order to achieve yourselves the full clear for Nightmare Raid. In my opinion, I think that the rewards are definitely going to be worth it because you do get yourself to additional access from the Queen's Guard badge, and from this Queen's Guard badge you can essentially come over to this normal shop over here. This is going to be the normal Azmakalis. Going to this person, and any of these weapons, specifically the sword and the pen necklace, all these are very extremely good endgame gear, which basically has all 4 rows on the highest max row, starting off the gear score with 42. So every single one of the equipment is going to be pretty much best in slot with the best in slot subsets at the highest possible rows, right? Me personally, I went for this necklace twice and I went for this ring once. I do, however, plan to probably cook up a little bit more for the epic weapon, because speed set with the starting 5 speed, with HP, attack, and crit chance, I think they're all very decent. Generally speaking, however, I would say the highest values are probably going to be lying within this pen necklace for people that are lacking DPS, or it's gonna be for this effect resistance ring if you want anybody with an effect resistance mainstay. So some of the effect risk players, you can definitely get this. For the immunity chest, this is technically really good as well. I just don't really like this crit. Sorry. For this immunity chest, it's honestly not too bad as well. I personally don't really like the crit hit chance, because unless I'm going to run this for DPS, then it's going to be a little bit scarred, right? So ideally, for any of these, you can't really go wrong. For this one, you quite literally cannot go wrong. If it rolls HP, you can give it to like a bruiser. This one, you also pretty much just can't really go wrong. And then for this one, it's more or less just like a gamble, but it is gonna be 5 cost cheaper, right? Every single one of this over here, you can just ignore them. And with that, this is the reason why you want to do them, because not only do the bosses themselves give you more drops after the very first clear, even the individual elites are gonna be finding over here. They also drop a potential, if you can see this back over here. If you go into your nightmare mode over here, even the random minions, they can also drop the random thingies over here. Yeah, so any of these elites, right, the defender, the counter attacker, the blade, all these different elites, when you fight them in the nightmare stage, they give you slightly better drops from the saplings, which could guarantee you like some of the, I forgot which items it was, but essentially TLDR, it is definitely worth it to do the Azmakalis nightmare cycle every single time. And the reason why you want to do this over the other normal mode is that if you're really full cleared nightmare cycle, you don't need to go back and clear normal mode again. You can see every single one of the bosses has already been eliminated in the nightmare cycle. So the moment you get your 20 units going, you can just do this once a month every single time to get yourself some very decent loot. And me personally, I think the reason that stands out the most is that it's just generally quite fun to just have some tackling, to do some challenging PvE endgame content, right? So that is pretty much going to be it. And I'm just gonna break down with you guys the teams that I use as well as my personal runs. Most of the runs, I actually did them on my phone. I actually did them all off stream. A huge shout out to Tristan Wolf. I think a lot of the Nightmare Raid guys, I definitely watch a lot of tips with regards to the free-to-play as well as the more accessible teams. For my personal teams, you're gonna see is probably not gonna be the best to be replicated, but you can definitely have some substitutes here and there. Moriya also has a very good Nightmare Raid document, which I'm gonna be showing somewhere over here. Feel free to check it out on the Google Docs, and it gives a very extensive breakdown of how Nightmare Raid itself works, as well as every single one of the individual boss mechanics in great details, right? So without further ado, let's just talk about the clears themselves. So you can see over here, we are going to be splitting this into 5 different teams: Carcanis, Queen, Jubilee, Arahakan, as well as Secretary Vera. Out of these 4 different teams, I would say for me personally, the most annoying team is going to be Arahakan, because this fight just takes way too long. It took very, very, very long. It's not particularly difficult, but it's just a very, very annoying fight, generally speaking. The more fun fight, I would say, is probably going to be Jubilee. Very interesting, okay, especially if you are able to get yourself the Spirit Eye Celine. Sorry. I feel like for Jubilee, it's going to be quite manageable, and then Vera is going to be, in my opinion, probably one of the more challenging fights, especially if you do not have access to some of these units that I've been seeing over here, right? But that being said, these are pretty much all free to play accessible. Sermia is free, Mercedes, everyone has her, Eros, everyone has her, and Mascot Hazel, I'm pretty sure everyone has her. You can definitely clear with this, but this one was probably the most mechanically challenging. For Queen herself, the moment you unlock some of these units, which again, most of them are going to be very, very free to play accessible, she's not that big of a problem. I don't want to yap too much of it. Let's just jump straight into the run itself. So this is going to be the team that I use for Executioner Carcanis. Unfortunately, I just do want to say my gear, compared to the clears that I did in the previous labyrinth, it definitely changed a little bit, because I was basically fixing my relics up for the previous unequipped event, preparing myself for better positioning for PvP. So just keep in mind that the builds are not going to be exactly the same, but I feel like the concept is still going to be applying. So for Bree, I just slam all in HP, as much health as really possible with a decent amount of speed, as well as the effect rest into effect resistance, right? If you do have a better breed than me to get a little bit more crit chance and crit damage, definitely go for that as well. So that is pretty much going to be that. Then for Elena, this build actually didn't change by too much. I think I basically used the exact same Elena build that I did for my PvP, almost absolutely zero change. If I could, I would have definitely changed it to speed boost, that you can cycle a lot faster for this specific fight. And then for DNA, this is also pretty much going to be the exact same PvE DNA build: speed, HP, effect resistance, no effectiveness, just to help us with the debuff a little bit more. And you're running the exact same artifact. And then this Fanny, I've been waiting for such a long time, because this is the exact same Fanny that I used for Carcanis, also the exact same Fanny that I used for Rift, speed tuning her to 173 speed, 14k HP, 100% crit chance, and 339 crit damage, right? Now that the Rift is over and that I pretty much don't really have any use to keep Fanny at 173 speed anymore, I'm definitely going to be upgrading Fanny to another gear in the future. But these are going to be the relics that I use. I believe I probably change this out to a plus 30 DDJ, but I can't really exactly remember. But that is pretty much going to be it for our Carcanis. So we're just gonna jump into the very first boss. That is gonna be Executioner Carcanis. This was the very first boss that I've ever attempted. I think this was probably almost 3 weeks back when I actually did this for my very first time. You have to use a full team of ice units, and yes, always do this resting and camping before you go into any of the boss fights. This goes for without saying, because you do get a little bit more of the health bar, right? So the moment you enter into the boss fight, the team I'm gonna be using here is gonna be Brick, Dini, Elena, and Fanny. So the name of the game for this specific team is that you need to bring your cleansers, because the 2 little bugs over there, they are gonna inflict a lot of annoying taunts, which can disrupt your DPS from hitting Carcanis himself. And every single time, I think especially towards phase 2 and phase 3, he's gonna go into stealth, and if you cannot break his stealth, then he's definitely gonna be doing a ridiculous amount of damage. So essentially for this fight, you want to bring aside your cleansers as well as your debuffers. So Brick basically synergizes perfectly over here. For the healer slot, you can see I'm going to be using Elena as well as Dini. But frankly speaking, these two are not going to be 100% must, because in my opinion, the angelic Montmorency, right, Angel Momo, that is going to actually be the better alternative, because she actually has the highest amount of cleanse uptime compared to any of these units over here, right? And also for Elena, I'm gonna be using her specifically just because I've been building for PvP, so I don't really want to keep changing gears and build up another PvE unit, right? Unfortunately, our S2 is not gonna be doing too much value, but we do have a built-in cleanse of our S1 as well as a little bit of cleanse on the S3 on top of the invincibility, right? For our DPS, honestly, there isn't too many blue DPS choices over here. You either go for Fanny, or if you have Cho, the blue Cho, then you can definitely go for the blue Cho. For me, since I did have any, it definitely made this fight a lot more accessible for myself. But I do want to say the support slot, you can basically just run Brick. I feel like Brick is gonna be the most straightforward slot. He's given for free for everyone. He has himself the buff strip as well as the debuffs as well as the shields. Everything for Brick basically used himself perfectly for executional Carcanis, right? So the fight itself in phase 1 is not gonna be too annoying. You basically just want to get him into phase 2. The fight itself is not going to be too annoying. If essentially you want to just keep getting debuffs on this guy because of Brick, and at any point of time he's going to be running out of the defense down, then just apply it back with your Guardian again. Although you can definitely also use Sparky for this situation, but for me, I actually went ahead and just go for the defense down with the thing, right? And you're going to see over here, this is actually not going to be my success run, but I kind of want to just show my fails as to why this run even collapsed in the first place. So you can see, and this part, because I don't really have any AoE DPS, it's going to lead to a point where I actually have to deal with the bugs one by one before we can eventually let Carcanis break out stealth for himself, which is going to be very, very annoying. If you do have an AoE DPS, this fight is going to be substantially easier. For example, saving your Elena S3 for this specific time is going to be very, very nice. Unfortunately, this is going to be not accessible because this is genuinely my first attempt, right? So once this is going to be done, he still have one more turn of stealth remaining. I'm basically just stalling at this point. Nothing too crazy. Just keep dealing damage to the bugs because these two bugs, you're definitely not going to clear them. They have like almost like infinite HP. Don't need a bother, but we're essentially just stalling for time here, building up our cooldowns. And if my Brick can land his S3 on the Carcanis himself, then that is going to bring out stealth, which is going to be very, very nice for us over here, right? So you can see this S3 is going to fly back in after we are going to be getting the hit after this, right? So Dini, we're just going to continuously stall and stall and stall. And now finally, bro is going to pop out from the stealth mode and we can go back into executional Carcanis again. So for this entire fight, you do want to make sure that you have your debuffs landed, because if you do not have any debuffs onto Carcanis, he's gonna do the counter attack on cast, right? So you can see over here, very, very annoying, especially when he casts off this ultimate. So always try to remember to not make sure that Carcanis has a debuff. Make sure that the unit attacking Carcanis does not have a debuff, right? Because if the unit attacking Carcanis has a debuff, then it's gonna trigger the counter attack, which is gonna do absolutely ridiculous amounts of damage. So just make sure that your entire team is gonna be cleansed throughout the time. Every single time you're gonna be dealing damage to Carcanis itself. The speed debuff as well as defense down, it just adds on a very, very nice source of additional damage for Carcanis. Unfortunately, we did get cleansed out of the defense break, but it's not going to be too big of a deal because since we are not going to be having any debuffs for Fanny herself, we are just going to continuously aim Carcanis and slowly chip bro down back into the final phase right now. Unfortunately, Brick is going to get dangerously low over here, and honestly, it's a little bit scary because these two minions at the side, the two mobs, they're going to constantly apply debuffs to the entire team, and because my Brick there, it has a debuff, he is not able to hit Carcanis, because if he does, then Carcanis is going to retaliate with a counter attack, which is going to be very, very bad. So now after Dini can cleanse my entire team, I can then proceed to go ahead and actually hit Carcanis himself. But I can see over here, action value is actually not looking too good for our favor. I'm just going to try to do as much damage as possible for bro, and saving up a little bit of, using up a little bit of soul burn because my debris is actually dangerously low over here. So I'm going to go for the basic into the automatic S3, cuts back in, and I do believe that around here is where we are going to be getting into phase 2. So we're going to get hit for the immunity, which is going to be very, very nice. Yep, and unfortunately, he actually goes into stealth here, which is extremely annoying, but it is what it is. We're just gonna have to push forward over here. Always try to get your Phoenix ultimate up no matter what it's gonna be, even if it's gonna be wasted on a minion, because the basic attack into the follow-up attack skill over there is gonna be very, very nice, right? So we're gonna continue to do this, and you can see here, if we do have angelic Momo, actually this fight should actually be even easier compared to running, for example, Elena, because Momo's cleanse is actually gonna be a lot higher compared to Elena herself, and my Elena is also not gonna be too good of a build because she's built to counter against Harsetti, so her speed is actually very, very slow. Now that we actually dispel the stealth because of the Elena S3, we can actually go back in. But because I want to make sure that I do not want to get this too low right before the second phase, I'm gonna stall this out a little bit more, waiting for the defense down. We are just gonna use our soul burn into our S3 to reset all our cooldown, because at this point I was super afraid that my Brick was gonna die, which honestly in hindsight, this honestly looks extremely scary. So I'm just gonna fast forward this a little bit more. Eventually you can see here around at this point, I actually sort of got to one of the last final phases over here. And when the boss let go of the, or rather my guardian let go of the defense down, I believe that my Brick actually got hit with the stun over here. And there was actually nothing I could have done for Brick because he actually got stunned. So at this point, I was trying to basically run down bro as fast as I can. I didn't even give a damn even though I have the debuff, which is silence. Very, very bad, by the way. Don't do that. But unfortunately, we are going to get cooked over here and Fanny actually dies. So this is going to be my failed attempt on Carcanis, right? Just want to show you guys how it looks like. And now I'm going to show you guys the successful attempt over here. So this is going to be the successful attempt. Honestly, first few phases, nothing too big of a change, so I'm just going to skip through. As we get into here, I was a little bit more mindful of my debuffs, as well as the fact that timing my Elena S3 to try to break bro out of stealth as fast as possible, so that we can continue our attack onto Carcanis itself. Also, I do want to say in hindsight, if I would change this to Sparky, I think this would have made our phase 3 a lot more straightforward, because Sparky does deal a percentage max health damage, right? So in any case, I'm going to continuously apply my... In any case, I'm going to continuously apply my pressure over here. This is going to lead to the follow-up S3 onto the main target himself, which is going to be very, very nice because we didn't have any debuff. Unfortunately, didn't stack on a defense down, but at this point, I think it's going to be a lot more straightforward compared to the previous because I basically knew what to do over here. Into the darkness, all these attack debuff, we don't really need to matter about it that much. We are just going to continuously use Fanning to hit the minions until eventually bro breaks our stealth, which is honestly very, very annoying. So always try to time your Elena S3 and break bro our stealth so that we can resume our attack, or we can make use of Brick when his fury is going to be at maximum. Then that is going to land on Carcanis himself as well. So yeah, we did save Elena's S3, break bro out of the stealth, and now we can continue our attack on Carcanis. Alright, Fanny actually lands up with a follow-up attack, which is going to be a decent amount of damage. He's going to give the barriers from the goons, but generally speaking, it's not going to be too big of a difference. At this point, I was thinking to myself, okay, I feel like I should probably just get Brick's defense down, which I think I do. Yeah, I actually do get Brick's defense down over here. So we instantly follow up into an S3. So hopefully when a defense down, and then Fanny is going to do absolutely ridiculous damage, which it does very, very good. So we're going to go for the basic into a skill, dealing absolutely tremendous damage onto Carcanis. Unfortunately, missing my crit because this game just absolutely fucking hates me. It is what it is. And then this is going to be essentially the final phase where he has the unshareable speed buff. At this point, you basically want to wrap it up as fast as possible because the damage is going to ramp up a lot, and the two minions, they are going to continuously taunt and apply debuffs to the point where you can't even hit Carcanis himself, and then you are going to die very, very soon if you don't get this up as soon as possible, right? So Brick actually forces have a follow-up attack, gets a bit of a defense down, unfortunately, so Brick himself actually cannot hit Carcanis. We're just going to save up since we save our S2, go into this, basically attacking into one of the minions so that we don't attack Carcanis, but we do have a debuff, and then this ultimate is going to land straight into Carcanis himself, hopefully applying the defense down over here so that my Fennec can do tremendous damage. Very, very good. So we are going to land the debuff on the Carcanis, and at this point, it's pretty much just going to be all in, and hopefully Fanny has enough damage over here to basically secure the kill. I hope that she doesn't miss the crit, but if she does, it's going to be very, very unfortunate. One out shouldn't kill here, but I think it should get us to very, very close range. This is going to be, I think, the last 20%. As long as Fanny does not get debuff, it's not going to be that bad. So luckily for us, Fanny actually did not get debuff, which is very, very good RNG since the boss, the minions targeting, they're generally just aiming whoever they want to hit, right? So now that we actually finally got ourselves a Dini S3, saving this up for the final moment to cleanse us all of the debuffs, we can essentially just go all into our Carcanis himself. So he's going to be at the final chunk. Dini is going to be here. I have way too many souls for my own good. Genuinely, I think that if I just brought Arky, this fight would have been over very, very long ago. I made use of the final soul burn just to deal as much damage as humanly possible, because this is also ultimately still percentage max health damage. You can see over here it's gonna do a whopping 54,000. Bring this close to the final bar, and then Fanny is just gonna let go of one final hit to bring down Executioner Carcanis right here. Boom, and that is going to be game, right? So the team that I used for Executioner Carcanis, so for the teams I used for Arakan, this is going to be my Cecilia over here. Essentially just tank pieces. Like I mentioned, the gear definitely changed a little bit as well. As much health as you can with some effectiveness, because you do want effectiveness to land your debuffs onto the guy as well. So I just basically went with that with the S2E to decrease speed. Very, very useful for pretty much any single situation. This is my PvP Arcadis. I didn't really change anything too much, just leftover gear. Give us some HP, give us some speed, give us a lot of effect resistance, and that's pretty much all you need. I believe I did not use Eternus last time. I can't remember which one that I used, but yeah, that's pretty much it. And then Researcher Care also basically just left over here 4-piece HP, 2-piece hit set. This bug is actually very, very low. Ideally, you do want to bring this up maybe 15k HP to be a little bit more comfortable. I also didn't even fully max out Kara because I know that the moment her job is done here, her job is done here. Now, I did use the Umbral Keystone to bring up our effectiveness just by a little bit on top of the combat readiness for the entire team. And then finally, my main DPS is going to be Spectral Tenebria. 2-piece crit rate, 4-piece crit damage. Nothing too much to say over here. Very, very straightforward. And then we went for the CR Rangers for some additional written debuffs. So that is also pretty much going to be my builds. Ideally, you want this to be a little bit higher, but it is what it is. So, yep, that is going to be that for Arahakan. Alright, this is going to be up against Arahakan, and in my opinion, this was the most annoying boss that I fought throughout this all 5 bosses, just simply because his mechanics is just very, 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 very annoying, and also just kind of RNG. It's not that difficult, but the fight just takes way too bloody long. So if you are going to be using this team, then all the best to you. I do want to say over here, Cecilia, when I used her over here, I basically made a mistake. I should have used Cecilia against Secretary Vera because she's gonna be way, way, way better against Vera, since Vera does want pure AoE focused targets, right? So Cecilia, even though I use over here, using Eros here is gonna position you better, especially if you want to save Cecilia for against Secretary Vera. In any case, this is still gonna be completely fine. So the main mechanic of Arahakan is basically you want to kill the 2 spiders by stacking on 2 debuffs of the same effect, and Researcher Kara here is pretty much going to be a non-negotiable. You can't not have her. She's gonna be the easiest way to stack on all the different debuffs at the fastest possible space. For the another alternatives you want, you can stack on multiple stacks of poison, such as, for example, in this case, Spectral Tenebria. But I do find myself that Researcher Kara is pretty much gonna be the easiest to use, cheapest to raise, and you can get the most consistent results out of everybody, right? So you can see over here, the spider actually didn't really die, which is a little bit unfortunate. But the principle is just try to kill the spiders, and once the spiders die, because the moment you stack on 2 buffs, they take increased damage. They already have a 100% defense down, so you do want them to have the maximum set of spiders so that they can actually die, and only after the 2 spiders die, then you can deal damage to Devourer Arahakan himself, right? So this process will just keep repeating all the way. So whenever the spiders dies, then it reaches his turn. You can see over here, he's always gonna summon brand new spiders after he casts his next on you. But at least the difference for this point is, now that we kill the spider for the first wave, and it's gonna be after he casts the ultimate, we can actually target the main body at this point, right? So don't continuously kill the spider all the time. We just want to hit Arahakan as much as possible when he can actually be damaged by himself, right? So at this point, we do have the curse, which is we can't really be buffed. It is what it is. We are just gonna be dealing our normal stuff, alright? And we want to slam up all of our damage from Spectral Tenebria onto Devourer Arahakan, right? Keep in mind, I'm basically saving my Sovereign because I want to save my Sovereign all the way towards the very, very last portion of this fight, so that I can guarantee the fact that this guy is definitely going to die over here, right? So that is pretty much it for gonna be for the entire fight. Just stack the debuffs on the 2 little spiders. The moment the 2 little spiders dies, deal damage to Devourer Arahakan, and then when Arahakan spawns by the spiders again, you want to rinse and repeat this process all over again, right? So for the tank slot, like I mentioned, you do want to use Cecilia or Adventurer Rust. Most players should definitely be using Adventurer Rust, but if you have nobody else to use against Secretary Vera, then that is going to be kind of annoying, right? Then Researcher Kara, in my opinion, it is pretty much going to be non-negotiable. I think everybody should just get this. If you don't really have this, you could go for the light and dark 3-star unit Sultan, because Sultan also has 2 burns on top of adding on Unhealable, which could be quite nice. But unfortunately, I don't really even raise him that much, and since Kara is gonna be more or less very, very accessible, I just went for her anyways. If you do not have any of these 2, then I do believe that spamming, and I'm not sure if Chris works actually. But yeah, anyways, you definitely have a Researcher Kara, so just go ahead and use her. And for our DPS slot, there are only just really 2. Either you run Commander Lorena, or either you run Spectral Tenebria, right? Whichever one of the one you're going to be using over here. The other DPS are just going to be using them in Nightmare Queen, so you can just take your pick. Personally, I do like to use Spectral Tenebria over here, because the Ash tree can actually help us kill one of the ads, and if the ads die, we do get an action value delay. On top of that, the poison is going to be very, very nice for the damage, especially since we can spam extra extra turns using our soul burn towards the very end of the boss. We can definitely slam this chest, do as much damage as possible, and close out the fight entirely, right? So that is pretty much gonna be that for the entire boss mechanic. Honestly, there is really nothing too crazy going on over here. It's just that it is very, very annoying because sometimes if you cannot apply a debuff at the end of the day, it is gonna be a 15%, right? No matter how much effectiveness you have, I believe I had them on 100%-ish effectiveness. No matter how much you have, you are gonna be subjected to 15%. If the debuffs don't stack onto the mini spiders and you take like 10,000 years, you are gonna absolutely get cooked, right? Another thing is you definitely want to run some sort of a sustain, which is going to be in my slot. That is gonna be Infinite Horizon Arcadis. Infinite Horizon Arcadis, I feel like she's gonna be very, very usable here, especially with her building up mechanics. But I do want to say, if you do not have her, then on other alternatives for your sustain slot, it can pretty much be anybody as long as they have cleanse, right? So if you want to, you can use your Amelia, you can use your DJ Bazaar, you can use your Magical Scholar Doris, which is gonna be the reawakened 3-star ML unit, which I think is gonna be very, very accessible. Generally speaking, I feel like I just went for Arcadis because I don't think I'm gonna be using her for any other fight outside of this anyways. So that is pretty much it, right? So for the entire fight, this will just be the process entirely. You're not gonna change anything. You will kill the spiders when they spawn all the way until this guy is no longer invincible. And when this guy is no longer invincible, you're gonna deal as much damage as possible to devour Arakan, and then the process just sort of repeats itself over and over. So honestly, the fight itself is just very, very boring. Just keep doing the same thing. You can see over here, without the 2 debuffs, we're not gonna be able to deal any close amount of damage. So it is what it is. For Kara, note in mind that if you are gonna be hitting with a basic, it actually takes away the burn stacks. So you sometimes want to actually just hit Arakan just for the sake of keeping the at least 2 burn stacks onto the mini spider, so that we can actually use our other units to deal more damage to the mini spider over here, right? So that is pretty much gonna be it. I'm gonna fast forward this a little bit just to show you guys towards the very last phase and see if there's any changes over here, right? So yep, this is exactly the same. Special to Nubia, there's 2 stairs. We are pretty much gonna slam in our damage. Boom, very, very good. Gets the kill, and then everything just goes all onto Arakan. Now that he's gonna be invincible, we're just basically gonna wait for him to get rid of the buffers, and then we can actually proceed into dealing damage. So you can see over here, this fight actually lasts like a ridiculous amount of time, right? This is gonna be an almost 15-minute-ish fight. So we actually got this down all the way towards the final phase, and honestly, there just really weren't too much of a difference. As long as you can apply your debuffs, you can apply get rid of the spiders fast enough, and don't get 15% all the time because of your effectiveness on carry is not gonna be high enough or whatever. You should have no issues whatsoever clearing this stage right now, right? So you can see over here, he actually gets back the invincibility. We are just gonna store, he's gonna summon, try to get your heals back up as fast as possible. Always prepare your Arcadis S3 for when he's gonna be spitting out the ultimate, so that you can actually deal with this guy properly. So Arcadis, preferably speaking, her speed should be decent enough, at least 200 or 220 speed. Then it's gonna help you deal with the fact that you want to rotate your cycle into a faster S3 over here, right? So that is pretty much gonna be it. You can see he's gonna be summoning the bosses, he's gonna summon the mobs, and once the mobs has been summoned, I feel like this is the part where I probably can go on. I was feeling a little bit greedy because I have been at this fight for so long, and because these 2 mobs are gonna be healing the bosses. Okay, I'm so sorry that I forgot because I didn't even see. Yeah, you want to get rid of these 2 mobs because they can actually heal Devour Arakan. So if you don't kill the mobs fast enough, they are gonna continuously heal Arakan, which makes this fight just incredibly annoying, because if you can't apply the debuffs, like the burn debuffs, you can't get the mobs. And if you can't get the mobs, he's just gonna heal, and the process will just keep repeating over and over, making this an extremely draggy fight, right? So now that we actually got our 2 debuffs, remember, do not want to hit the Arakan himself. With Carrot, just try to deal this with Special Tenebria and get all of the damage out on the rest of the team, right? So we are just gonna see this fast forward a little bit more again, because it's gonna be a cycle of rinse back and forth, all the way towards the end. He's gonna summon, and this is gonna be the final hit over here. We have 2 Soulburns that I decided, okay, you know what, this is time. I go all in, I have the defense down. I'm pretty sure I have enough damage to just slam on my hit over here, go for the 2 extra hits, and I believe my ultimate with 3 debuffs should basically clear this out. So that is the entire premise of the fight, right? Kill the spiders as fast as possible. When he respawns, deal as much damage as you can before you want to kill them again, because he's gonna keep hitting the boss, right? So that is gonna be that for Arakan. So for the 3rd team, we are gonna be up against the Jubilee Council. You have to use a full team of green units because it actually helps you identify which of the flies are gonna be the right target over here, right? Because otherwise, if you're not, it's gonna be very bad. So just run full team of green. That's pretty much it. The main mechanic for this boss is that you do not want to inflict any debuffs, right? If you were to inflict any debuffs on the Jubilee Council, then you are gonna take tremendous damage over. You can see in this kit, I believe it's something like this. Yeah, so you can see when there are 4 elemental heroes, you basically want to do this and has a nucleus, so you can find out which one to kill. So very straightforward. So when being attacked, if the caster has a debuff, grants random buffs or tokens before dispelling all debuffs, increase combat readiness. You basically just do not want to get this, because if you get the Noxus toxicity going up all the way to next level 3, it's gonna deal tons of damage. So you basically want to run a team where you have no debuffs, right? So this is gonna be the team I use against Jubilee, which is gonna be Destina, Vivian, Bellona, as well as Celine. Yes, a PvP Celine. Now, you might be wondering, why am I using green Bellona over here? Now, the main reason for green Bellona is that she actually deals exceptionally well at the phase where he splits up into 2, which is going to happen at 70% as well as 40% HP. So, at this specific moment, Bellona actually does very well over here. And you can just try to make it to the point where you don't deal any debuffs by not using your ultimate for as much as you can, even though the S2 eventually is going to happen eventually. But as long as you can store this out and hope that you don't get any debuffs, then it's going to be completely fine for you, right? So you can take a look at the builds we have over here. Destina is pretty much going to be a very regular Destina. I would say you definitely want to change your HP boots into speed boots so that you can get a little bit better rotation for yourself. But this is the PvP Destina that I have, which is on 30k HP just to go up against random morts. But for your own build, you definitely want to change the speed boots against this fight. And then for Vivian and Bellona is pretty much almost the exact same build. Speed, crit, DPS. Yep, that is pretty much it. Let's give them some random speed crit DPS gear. No effectiveness, and you don't really need anything else. As long as you just give them your normal speed DPS gear for both, it is pretty much going to be good to go. Now, between Bellona as well as Vivian, I would say that Vivian deals a little bit more damage, especially with the S2. So just give the better gears to Vivian herself. And then finally, your best DPS is definitely going to be coming for Celine. So this is just my standard PvP Celine. Maxed out crit chance and crit rate with mediocre speed and some attack percentage. Maybe you can give it a little bit more speed to cycle, but I think this speed is going to be completely fine. So that's going to be my team of 4, and without further ado, let's just jump straight into the run itself. So this is going to be the actual run. I actually did this run on my very first try. I'm not sure if it's because of RNG or whatever it is, so I just know that I think this run was quite interesting, right? Now, you might also be wondering, can Schneel work against Jubilee Council? Unfortunately, no. Schneel does not work here because it is not going to be the same as Toxic, right? The wording is basically different, so yeah, it is what it is. Schneel doesn't work, so just run this team is pretty much going to be good to go over here, right? So I'm basically just reading some of the abilities because my first time I was just a little bit monkas. As long as you run this team with no debuffs, you have a lot of cleanse, a lot of healing, and pretty much Destina is going to be doing that. And then we are going to be running Vivian here for the immunity buff so that we don't get hit the own debuffs. It is going to be fine, right? So for our very first phase, just keep hitting against the Jubilee Council, spamming your skills, get your immunity buff from Vivian, and then just slam all your attack. It is very straightforward. You don't really have to think anything because there are no mobs with Jubilee Council. He's going to be the only guy there. So slamming all of your soul burns, all of your S3, just do anything you can, because keep in mind, you do not have any debuffs to be applied on this kit. So there's really just not too much to think. Deal as much damage as possible. Keep basically attacking. You want to essentially use Destina to cycle out your Celine, because your Celine is actually going to be the one that deals the highest possible damage, especially against Jubilee Council single target HP, right? So continuously spam your Destina's damage onto Celine and help her cycle into the S3 as fast as possible. For Bellona, like I mentioned, you do not want to use your ultimate at all. Now, unfortunately, if you were to use your S2, luckily we didn't hit any debuff because I intentionally tried to reduce the effectiveness to as low as possible. So if you do get hit the S2 and it lands out a free ultimate, you get to hit a debuff, it is gonna be a little bit annoying, right? So unless that happens, you should be fine. Just continuously base attack. You can see this guy's HP is actually very squishy, so the fight is actually over relatively quickly, especially when you want to compare to Arahakan, right? So it's a very fast fight, and I think that it was quite enjoyable for me. So at this point, he drops into the, I believe, 70% HP, and then we are gonna instantly let go of a Celine S2 because it actually does count as a Celine S2, and because we are running a full team of Earth Elemental, we know exactly which one to kill, which is gonna be the Sin over here with the target on top, right? So at this point, I want to slowly use myself to cleanse away all of the debuffs first, right? Repeating, recycling, keeping sure that my team is alive, because at this point the damage is actually very, very straightforward. It's not going to be that painful, so use this opportunity to heal up and do as much damage as possible. Now, because we are actually going to be getting a split over here, you can pretty much let go of your Bellona S3 and just do whatever you want, because this is the part where it doesn't really matter, right? Because it's not in the phase where he's getting all the buffs together. So you can see we actually apply our defense buff, and Celine is actually going to do tons of damage. Soul Burn S3, fly into the nucleus. I think this should just one-shot, if not close to one-shot. Very, very, okay, I guess 20%, 10% HP left, kind of close. With Vivian, that is gonna get us to 1% HP, because that's just who I am. Afterwards, Bellona is pretty much gonna go over there. Ideally, you actually wanted to just let go of the S2 here, so that you can actually sort of waste it and not use it on the bosses. Alright, so you can see over here, boom, we let go of our S2, breaking this, and now we are not gonna be worried about applying this defense down buff in the Jubilee. So that's why, even though Bellona has defense down, as long as you manage it well, it's not gonna be that bad. After this phase is done, the whole thing just repeats itself again, and then it's gonna do the exact same thing at around 40%. I believe it's 40% HP. So repeat the stuff, get your immunity buff from Vivian, remove all of the potential debuffs that's going to be attacking, and if you do get hit with any debuff, just cycle out with the Stina and cleanse your entire team. It's going to be very, very straightforward. I'm basically saving as much skill point soul burn as I can, but sometimes if you run just let it rip, it's fine, because you can see I have a lot of soul burn over here, so it's not going to be too big of a deal. I'm just going to continuously attack with Bellona. You basically don't really give a damn about anything else. Just keep attacking with Bellona, keep basically attacking, because she also, you can see over here, gets himself a little bit of a immunity uptime because of the basics, so it's not going to be that bad. Destina goes back over here. You remember, you always want to use her to either cycle Celine or cycle herself, unless you're in a situation where you want to play a little bit safe and push somebody else out. I guess that works as well. I'm not too sure why I used my S2 on Bellona there. Maybe I was just a little bit scared, because if I was scared, I should have just pulled up a Vivian, which is like way lower. But it is what it is. I'm gonna go in with the S2, and because we do get ourselves the additional immunity buff from the S2, it actually helps us a little bit in terms of the comfort. That's why Bellona was not that bad. As long as it's not S3, it's gonna be okay, right? Then after this, Vivian just continuously basic attack, right? Your entire team just keeps doing the basic attack, and now that you do get hit with the unhealable and unbuffable, don't worry, because we are gonna be reaching phase 3 very, very soon. Soul Burn S3 here's the main body. I believe after this we should be getting close to the next phase after Vivian goes for the basic attack, if I'm not wrong, right? So my ultimate has 3 turns cooldown remaining. I cleanse myself, cycle back up. I do believe that with this basic we should be getting into the next phase. Okay, I guess we didn't really get it. I think if I used basic there, I could have definitely gotten it. It is what it is. We are just gonna continuously apply damage to Jew Leaf Council. Just continuously basic. If you're a little bit scared, you can just go ahead and use a Soul Burn, because it does technically heal you up, back up a little bit. But I forgot that they actually have the unhealable debuff, so I was just completely wasting my points over there for no reason whatsoever. At this point, we do get ourselves into the final phase. So the moment we cast the the phase change, Celine actually flies forward with the S2. Now, sometimes this S2 actually hits the right target. Unfortunately, it didn't happen over here, but this is like the chill part. Because at this point, the dangerous thing is every single time you take a turn, he's gonna start spreading this plague thing. So you actually can't store that much, and you want to try to close this up as quickly as you can, at least compared to the previous phase. So I was thinking to myself, okay, are we going to be in danger of dying? Because Vivian is actually very, very low. So I was thinking to myself, okay, I now can just use my Soul Burn basic attack, because this actually helps us do a substantial amount of heals. After the substantial amount of heals, we're actually going to use our Bellona S3, getting our defense down. Not too big of a difference, because Destina is going to be getting the S3 very, very soon as well. So you can see over here, Vivian, I want to save up my own S3 Vivian when we actually get into the final phase. So I think at this point, I can kind of just Soul Burn S2, and we just hopefully get us to the phase change, which it does in fact occur. This gets us to the phase change. Celine comes back in with another S2. So this additional Noxus toxicity, you need to clean up this fight as fast as possible at this point. So I use my S3 to cleanse away all of the venom, get rid of them all, boom. Then we have to just deal as much damage as humanly possible. Now, unfortunately, you can see over here, my focus is actually to the max. So I am gonna be letting go of a S3. So I'm just praying to God I don't get hit with the defense down. Because as long as you don't basic attack, you can technically store this out a little bit longer. longer by using S2. So I was just basically trying to store this for as long as possible, because if I do hit him with defense down, it's going to be very, very ugly, right? So you can see over here, we are going to be getting hit, which is going to be dealing a pretty sizable chunk of damage. So we are going to be continuously using our heals with the Stina over here. Either S2 or S1, can sort of just depend for itself. I'm not really remembering what did I go for over here. Let me just see. I think I was just cooking, because I was so scared that my Bellona next turn, she's definitely going to S3, right? So she's definitely going to S3, and if she does land a defense down, I was a little bit afraid that my round will be over. So I was basically trying to, I guess, keep my team alive. So I actually get off the cleanse on the Vivian, pop off the immunity for our entire team. Very, very nice over here. Then he's going to go for the debuff. Alright, stripping away our immunity. So at this point, I need to clean this up, right? Unfortunately, I actually realized that if I were to do a basic attack Vivian, I technically deal more damage. But now that I know it is what it is, so at this point, I can't really change anything anymore. In hindsight, I probably should have just R-keyed over here, because that would have basically prevented me from casting an S3. Yeah, so that's what happens if you land on debuff, right? So he actually dispels the debuff immediately, and now he gets an attack buff, which is very, very scary. So in that hindsight, I definitely should have just R-keyed over there and just gotten this over and done with. Luckily for us, his health is going to be low enough to the point where I can pretty much get this run out of the way, even though we get hit with the massive, massive ultimate here. Basically, my entire team, that I was like, oh my god, is my run over? I do basically have one turn remaining on my ultimate. So Destina uses the S2 on herself. Selena dies, and my Destina lives with 5,000 HP. So at this point, I cast my S3, revives my entire team, and I think at this point is where I got the actual run. So Vivian goes for the basic, and then afterwards, Celine cleans this up. Boom. And that's gonna be run. So whoa. Okay, that was so fucking scary. Okay, yeah, so that was basically the final hit. My hindsight was basically, I definitely should have just used the R key against the Bellona turn, so that I could have just basically stored out the defense stuff completely without risking it. But yep, that's pretty much gonna be for Julie. A lot faster, a lot more straightforward. Just be a little bit more mindful with the debuffs, and you should be good to go. Now, this is the team I use for what is, in my opinion, one of the most annoying boss fights that I fought so far, which is going to be Secretary Vera. I think Secretary Vera, it is a very, 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 very strong unit check. If you do not have these units, I think your time here will be extremely, extremely difficult. So the gist is basically he summons a lot of eggs, right? So, and all these eggs, you want to basically try to kill all the eggs first before you hit Vera, and you always want to land a basically AoE attack, because if you damage Vera without an AoE attack, it will deal tremendous damage to your entire team, right? So that is pretty much gonna be it. So my team use here, even though it is very, very unit restrictive, they are basically all free to play accessible. Eros is completely free, Mercedes is completely free, Sermia is completely free, and Mascot Hazel, I'm pretty sure everyone has herself the Mascot Hazel. So the only issue is basically leveling up these units, and in my opinion, my philosophy for Epic 7, and this is how I'm building my account, is building them for PvE purposes, not too much for PvE, right? So I try to go by as long as I can without touching PvE related units. So for Eros, I think it's fine, because I can technically still run him in PvP, so this is gonna be that. My gear is basically health with speed and a little bit of effectiveness as well as effect rest. That is pretty much it, running on the Aureus did I say W engine? Nope. The Aureus artifact, right? So that is gonna be there. And then for our Sermia, this is gonna be a very, very basic normal ass Sermia. Just run the pen necklace with the double crit. Now for my Secretary Vera run, I actually ran this with something called a 4-piece attack and 2-piece pen instead, because I was just using any random gears I had on Sermia, because I just didn't really invest in her that much. Slamming this in with the DDJ, I don't really think a DDJ works. I can't seem to remember. Just give her 100% crit, just give her as much damage as possible, and you'll be good to go. Exclusive equipment, definitely run this as one, because this actually procs very, very frequently. And this 25%, I don't know, it procs so frequently, actually deals a ridiculous amount of damage. So I would say this is actually very, very strong. No other choice, just run this as one. Rather the first exclusive that's gonna be there. And then for your Mascot Hazel, I basically just gave her the most random ass garbage gears that I could find, because I don't want to touch my PvP units on candlesticks, just to make her, you know, cycle a little bit faster. You can see 11k HP, 177 speed. Really just a very, very bad quality relic. So if you have a better gear for your Hazel, definitely go for it. I did even awaken up max, and we still got to clear eventually. Mercedes. Now this is going to be the unit that is a must. I don't think you have any other replacement for Mercedes. You absolutely have to have her because she deals with the eggs so efficiently. Because without Mercedes, with Sermia alone, it is basically impossible to clear all the eggs fast enough, especially going into phase 2 as well as phase 3, right? So Mercedes is pretty much non-negotiable. But what I did is because she was like a base 4-star, and I just don't think I'm ever gonna be using her in PvP, I just chugged it into the Grace of Growth. Right, so she's currently in the Grace of Growth. I'm not gonna be using her outside of Nightmare Raid whatsoever because I've already done with all of my Abyss. So the moment I'm done with Nightmare Raid, I'm just gonna take her away. But for now, I haven't even really found myself a need to put anyone in the Grace of Growth. So I kind of just chugged it here because the month is gonna reset in like 4 days. So I'm just gonna use her again, and then once she's done, I'll probably take it away in case I want to build any other units. Right, so just give her a very basic speed plus crit set, 100 crit rate, all of the crit damage with decent enough speed and attack, and then this is gonna be the free artifact that everybody has, Magic for Friends. Everybody gets it for free. You basically absolutely have to run this non-negotiable. So yep, that is gonna be there for Vera, and let's just see how the fight itself looks. Alright, and now like I mentioned just now, if you actually have Cecilia over here when you didn't use her against Arakan, Cecilia is gonna be perfect for this fight because every single one of them for S2 and S3, they're all AoE, which is gonna be even better than Rust. But for Rust, it might not be that bad because he does have the Soulburn spam S2 with your Sermia, and Sermia actually deals ridiculous fucking damage to Vera herself. So that being out of the way, let's just take a look at the fight. So this is going to be the Vera. You can see over here, they always spawn the eggs, and the minions always spawn. So the play here is you want to kill the eggs as fast as possible. And Mercedes, in my opinion, it is the easiest, most accessible, best fire DPS. Everybody has her. It's completely free. Just run her, and you are pretty much good to go. And as per good practice, I always stack all my soul burns all the way at the start before we go, which is gonna be from all the minions. So they always start off with maximum soul burn. You can see over here, almost all of the mobs are basically half day, so you just slam all of your AoEs and do as much as damage as possible. Now you're not gonna be able to kill all of the eggs immediately. If you were to not use Sermia, and let's just say you use for example like Haze or like Tama Marine, maybe you can just instantly kill the eggs. But unfortunately for me, it's not gonna be as strong, so we're just gonna pop them individually over time, which is not gonna be that big of a deal because even if you do get a delay, the moment that my Mercedes goes, all of the eggs will die. So this one, I'm just going to be slamming my Soulburn S2 into the egg. Remember, you do not want to hit Secretary Vera with a single target ability whatsoever. So, okay, I just went for the base that I didn't even use for the S2 because I wanted to save. And then this is the point where my Mercedes is going to come forward. Yep. Goes for the counter, and we instantly kill all of the eggs, right? So now is the time where my Sermia can actually deal damage to Secretary Vera. So we actually unfortunately did get hit with a attack down, which is a little bit unfortunate. So I just so burned into my S3, just deal as much damage as possible. I was contemplating whether do I need to use my Guardian over here to get a guaranteed defense down, but I was saying, okay, since A-Ross is going to be coming out immediately after Vera, and I haven't gone to my great attack above yet, I think I'm fine waiting, which is exactly why you can see over here, the even dual attacks can trigger the additional attack from Sermia. And yes, any dual attacks from additional attack from Sermia can also proc the exclusive equipment 1, right? So now that we got the defense buff, we can just tear down. You can look at how quickly we deal damage against Secretary Vera the moment you get yourself the defense on. So now that we have this over here, Soul Burn S3, and you basically just slam, and you're gonna probably just almost immediately get into phase 2. Yeah, so that is gonna put us already into a 50%-ish HP. So this is gonna instantly bring us into phase 2. So for phase 2 fight over here, he spawns the 2 little bugs, which are gonna be acting as distractions because they are gonna basically inflict taunt and all that kind of stuff. So you want to try to break this phase 2 as fast as you can. And because we do have ourselves A-Ross, we can just Soul Burn S2 again, get ourselves a defense buff. Sorry, get ourselves a defense debuff, and we just almost immediately kill Vera. You can see how quickly this truly is, right? Boom, 1 base into the S1, and it's gonna be 1/4 of his HP gone almost instantly. And because we do have the immunity from A-Ross, this has been no issue whatsoever. I am basically gonna slam my S3 right here, or maybe I didn't. Okay, I slammed my S3 right here, went for it. Another roughly 10%-ish HP. The real damage is going to be coming from Sermia, of course. So we do get ourselves the buffs, increase our combat readiness, and you basically want to just deal as much damage as possible. Boom, 1 time. And then we go for the boom because of the additional exclusive equipment. And then once we do get ourselves A-Ross into the S2, we're going to be doing a lot more damage as well. So you can see we are already at going towards the wanted HP threshold. I'm actually, you do want to try to save up a little bit of your AoE skills, especially at phase 3, because phase 3 is going gonna summon all of the eggs again. So just keep that in mind. Now we are gonna be going for the Soul Burn S2, cracking into Vera again. I'm pretty sure this will deal absolutely ridiculous damage as well. Boom, boom. Instantly getting out into S3. So that is just why Sermia, even though she's single target, she just deals absolutely fucking ridiculous damage as well. So it's gonna be very, very good. So at this point, my team is a little bit squishy, but I'm pretty sure this is still gonna be good enough for us to get the clear regardless. Alright, we go for our kill over here, and then we're gonna go for the basic. He's gonna start using his AoE attack, and then he's gonna spawn the 2 eggs. So at this point over here, you basically want to use your AoE abilities again, right? So AoE comes back in, the process of rebates by itself. Don't bother trying to kill any of the bugs over there. You're definitely not going to be killing because it's just way too tanky. So this is going to be a little bit annoying because if you get hit with a taunt from the bugs, you actually cannot use your AoE abilities whatsoever, which is why phase 3 is often the most annoying part because you are trying to do your AoE attacks while simultaneously managing the taunt from the 2 shield bugs over there. So with Soul Burn S3 slams in, X almost die. Ross, we are going to let go of this over here. Boom. Unfortunately, we didn't really get ourselves the defense down because we didn't, I'm just dented because he has immunity. So I don't know what the hell I was doing. I should just went for the basic there, but it is what it is. So we're just going to go back into our ultimate, cleanse everybody back up as well as the attack buff greater for our entire fire team. Yep, and at this point, Sermia is gonna get ourselves the taunt again. Unfortunately, just not gonna be dealing enough damage because as long as the bugs exist, he's just gonna continuously taunt, which is gonna be very, very annoying, right? So you can see over here, Mercedes really chugging in the damage and helping us clear all of the eggs. So at this point, you basically want to continuously Soul Burn S2 with Ross. So now that you get this, you not only get the defense down, you also get the immunity, which unfortunately gets instantly stripped, and now I'm taunted again. So you can see my Sermia, even though she deals ridiculous damage, those bugs are really annoying because they keep taunting your highest attacking DPS, so they're always gonna be taunting Sermia, and my Sermia actually dies here. So I was thinking to myself, wait, is this run over? And I'm like, nah, we're still gonna win. So now that even though my Sermia died, my Mercedes, you can see over here, she's really gonna pop off because even though Mercedes gets taunted, her abilities are still technically AoE. So it's actually not that bad. So even the basic cast off, we get rid of one of the eggs. We are extremely close. In fact, I was a little bit like, okay, how the hell did I even win this? Oh wait, Mercedes has a revive. That's true. So we're gonna go for the S3, heal us up a little bit more. We get ourselves the ultimate buff from Hazel. Greater attack is gonna be casted. The bugs are gonna be spawning, and I'm thinking, okay, are we good? Luckily, they hit Ross. We get hit with a counter into another counter, bring us to roughly 1/3 HP left. We Soul Burn S3, slam this shit in. Big booms damage, bring down us to the final stretch. Going back in for the Soul Burn S2. Unfortunately, did not get a defense break because if we do get a defense break over there, that would have definitely been game. Very unfortunate, but we do get ourselves a revive. I believe that with one more hit, I think this should be game. Yeah, so this is my final Soul Burn S2. Hit it, bonk, and then Mercedes goes in for a very nice finish, right? So this one honestly almost completely collapsed because my Sermia died just continuously just get taunted and just couldn't do anything against Vera. But Mercedes, absolute MVP. If we didn't have her, it was just definitely not going to be possible, right? So that's pretty much going to be it. Alright, and with that, we have finally come to the very last team. What is arguably, I guess, the most probably mechanically intensive team, or rather the team that requires the most reading, right? You definitely need to read against the Queen, and also very strong unit check. So hopefully you guys did not use Tama Marine anywhere else, because I can say right now, if you do not have Tama Marine for Queen, it's impossible. Same thing as Mercedes. These two units, you basically just have to use them respectively because there are pretty much just absolutely zero alternatives for these units. So, yep, we need Tama Marine. Isaria is actually going to be pairing very well because of the Tama Marine plus Isaria combination. So these two, since they're going to be for free, very good. Then for our Commander Lorena, you can either use her or Special Tenebria. Doesn't really matter too much. If you use Tenebria in the first half, then you can just use Commander Lorena in the second half over here, right? I personally didn't think there's too much of a difference. I still cleared it relatively okayly. And then one final slot is going to be our assassin over here. Now, this Angel of Light Angelica slot is honestly pretty flexible. There are a lot of different choices for Angel of Light Angelica. Your main gimmick here is basically someone that has the ability to basically land our debuffs onto Queen, right? So as long as you can stack on these debuffs on top of this buff strip, right? On top of the buff strip, that is when they're gonna be completely fine. So Angel of Light Angelica, our S3 has the 2-turn unbuffable and 1-turn silence. Very, very nice. It is also gonna be considered as a non-attack skill. So if you get 50%, you will not proc a counter attack. The Unbound Night Arrow well is also gonna be pretty decent because you have built-in escort, which is basically just gonna be another Aureus and also another 2 buff strip, but it's not gonna be as consistent. And then you also can use Rowana as to a Falconer Clury. As long as you have a buff strip, that is pretty much gonna be it. So I am going to be using Angel of Light Angelica over here. For the more extensive guide for all of the units, please check out the document I'm going to be posting in the link below. It's going to be going through every single possible combinations that you can use it for a team, right? So talking about the actual build itself, you can see for my Tama Marine, very, very basic. I went for the Simadra stuff for a little bit more effectiveness, or rather effect rest, 100% effectiveness and effect rest for the buff strip, as well as removing the ability to get debuff ourselves. Speed on HP, that's pretty much it. Nothing too crazy. I would prefer if my health is a little bit higher, but it is what it is. I just step on random PvE gears, and this is gonna be a area which also just almost absolutely zero cannon roll. Now you do not want to use the light cone or the artifact Song of Stars, because if the Queen has more than 2 debuffs, she's gonna fuck you up, because she's gonna go into enrage and cleanse everything. So do not use Song of Stars, just run DDJ and it's gonna be good to go. So I just ran on some random ass 4-piece speed, 200 speed. Make sure that she has enough effectiveness and some effect rest that's gonna be good to go while being tanky enough. So really nothing too much crazy on over here. And then Angel of Light and Angelica, sorry, this is just gonna be my PvP build. 4-piece speed, 2-piece hit, effectiveness and effect rest with a split, 16k HP with 239 speed. Yeah, this build is basically what you want your Tama Marine to be as well. So if you can copy and paste this for Tama, then it's gonna be completely fine. I'm running her on Attica Scepter, although probably not gonna be the best in slot, but it is what it is. And then finally, Lorena, very straightforward, just run all in DPS. Not even my best DPS gears, 97.8 with DDJ. Yep, that's pretty much it. So let's just take a look into what the run itself actually has to offer. So this is going to be my very, 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 very last Nightmare Raid, and as I'm going through, thank you guys so much for watching all of my Epic 7 content. I think I'm still having a lot of fun playing this game. Now that I've pretty much gone through most of my PvE content, look forward to more RDA, Guild War pools, meta, all that kind of stuff, because I think that's where my focus is now. I've been playing a lot of RDA. I think I just hit Champion 1 in normal rank arena. Yeah, arena. So yeah, stay tuned for that. But this is pretty much gonna be our very, very last Nightmare Raid rotation. If we do get a different team in the future, I'm gonna be updating as well. But yep, don't have to care about it that much. So we are just gonna skip through this part at the start. So these are just the random bosses. You're just gonna get there, and basically this process is gonna be exactly the same as how you're gonna be building up your souls for any of the Nightmare Raid bosses, right? You wanna just not use your souls, put them in full auto, build up as close to 10 as possible, and then use the manual right before you enter into the stage itself, so that you don't waste your cooldowns, right? You want to save up, make sure everybody has their cooldowns instantly, especially for Tama Marine. You want to instantly out with Tama Marine when you go in, so please manual this. So I'm just gonna skip through, right? And then we're gonna heal up in our camp right before the fight battles happen. So very straightforward. You're gonna be doing this for every single fight. So the first I think 5 minutes, you're gonna be doing this for every single fight in Nightmare Raid, right? So that's pretty much gonna be it. So now that we got our morals rested up, we are finally going to be going into the Queen herself. We are going to instantly let go. Like I mentioned, the moment you're going to hit her, she's going to hit you with the fatigue, right? And that's where you want to basically make use of a Tama Marine to immediately ultimate, bring everyone back in, right? The Queen's binding, you're not going to be able to move. You're going to take 10,000 years. So now that it's going to be Tama Marine's turn, you instantly want to out and essentially cleanse everyone from this fatigue because of this scenario. So we instantly S3 into S2. This opening is very, very standard, nothing too crazy over here. So we're gonna paralyze, no issues, just bring everyone up and just remove the fatigue. It's gonna be good to go, right? So we basically want to strip, make sure that the buff strips on Queen is always gonna be available. You do not want her to get buffs, right? You do not want to have her to back buffs. And then afterwards, you basically just want to do as much damage onto Queen as you can while keeping up the buff strip on herself, right? So all of the little different minions, I don't think they're gonna be too crazy because we are sort of trying to do our focus buff over here. So you guys see over here, I'm gonna be landing our buff silence as well as unbuffable. We did get ourselves the Issaria S2 into Tama Marine so that we can instantly ultimate again immediately as we go into the next phase. So we cast our debuff from our S2 landing onto the queen with unbuffable plus defense down, right? Because the Ysera over here with the defense down and unbuffable, very, very important. And it also does have built-in buff straight, right? So buff straight, buff straight, buff straight. You can see Tama has buff straight, Ysera has buff straight, Angel of Light has buff straight, and on DPS is Chlorina or Stanley, they're all gonna work. So now that we actually have our defense down, we are gonna be able to deal a lot more damage. You actually want to stall here, right? So this is gonna be the special part. You want to stall here right before she goes below 50%, I believe, right? So the way you stall essentially is just do as much damage as possible now before dropping her to below 50%. Because the moment she goes into 50%, all of the mobs are gonna deal significant damage to you, right? So at this point, this is the part where you start aiming the mobs. So Tristan Wolf came out of this strategy in one of his videos where the moment you get to as close to 50% as possible, you want to kill the 2 beasts using Commander Lorena and basically your entire team, because these beasts deal ridiculous damage if you cannot kill them fast enough when you go into the next phase, right? So now that we actually have this, you can see that the beasts are actually not even that squishy. You do need quite a bit of damage to actually get them here, but because we have Angel of Light, we have the Cleanse, we have the Skill Nullifier, you shouldn't face too big of an issue before she goes to the next phase. She's not going to be dealing any damage because she won't cast her ultimate essentially, right? So at this point, just continuously damage the beast, snipe that down one by one, kill. Now you do not want to basically use your Tama Marine S1, the AoE S1, because that does count the damage for the queen, and that's gonna trigger into the rage mode, right? So you do not want to do that. So now that we're actually gonna be getting over here, we're gonna get rid of the B, Sovereign S with Lorena. This gets rid of it after one more basic. Very, very good. And then now we focus onto the other B. And the moment the other B is done, that's when you can finally go into the next phase, right? So at this point, just chill. It's very, very easy. So taking amount of the ultimate cooldowns, you always want to make sure that either Angel of Light or Isaria, they have a buff strip ready, right? Buff strip from Angel of Light is going to be on the S3. The Isaria is also going to be on the S3. So always make sure you have at least one buff strip ready at all times. If you do not have a buff strip ready, you want to stop, right? So at this point, I was thinking to myself, okay, since my Angel of Light does not have an S3, I'm just going to use my S2 onto AOL instead of Tama Marine, because this part is not going to be that scary yet, right? So as long as she doesn't go into the angry mode into phase 2, she will never cast the ultimate, which is where everything will go to shit. So now at this point, we want to make sure that this is still going to maintain our buff shape at 2. Always make sure this is going to be stacked up, and then we continuously deal damage into the B. And as long as you follow these steps, you can see that because when we are dealing damage to the B, the queen's HP is slowly dying. It's like the B, the queen has a built-in Aureus that when you damage the B, the queen also takes damage, right? So when you kill both beasts, you should be leaving the queen at roughly 20%-ish HP, and then you should just run her down as fast as possible, and that's how you get the clear, right? So these beasts are like the way of you cheesing damage to basically get in free damage right before the queen transforms going to the next phase, right? So that's pretty much the entire cheese for this entire team. So at this point, you do not want to out, right? Keep in mind, you do not want to out with Tama Marine, because if you out and you cast S1, the S1 counts as AoE, and it will instantly proc the queen into the phase 2. So do not do that. So for your rest of the fight, just continuously do this. Slam your S3, slam your S2, and keep in mind, always make sure there is at least one unbuffable onto the queen. And Angel of Light is perfect for this, because Angel of Light here, you can actually maintain this unbuffable on the queen without damage her. I don't know if you can do this for any other units, but I think AOL is going to be very good, because you get to apply the unbuffable without actually hitting her, which is, I think, what makes this cheese work. Maybe other units couldn't even do this, so it is what it is. But let's just continue on over here. So now that the queen does not have any unbuffable, I follow back up with an AOL again, lands ourselves the unbuffable, and keep in mind, if you are going to be feeling the 15% over here, it can be very, very scary, because you have no other choice, right? You basically have to use the unbuffable on the queen, because if the queen gets any buff, she's gonna go haywire, right? So anyways, I'm continuing on. So unfortunately, I didn't really land the defense on the B. I'm just gonna go for the ultimate, deal a little bit more damage on the queen. Alright, cycle a little bit more, because I know that she's going to go into the next phase very, very soon. So I want to just get my cooldown up as fast as possible and basically recycle my Ysera S2 as well as S3 as well over here. So my S3 is almost ready with 2 turns remaining. My AOL is going to be 2 turns remaining. So I think to myself, okay, maybe I just buff out my AOL now so that she gets the ultimate in preparation for the queen. And then now I can go back into the B again, going for another action value delay, and we actually land ourselves a defense down buff, which is going to be very, very nice. And now at this one, I'm pretty sure the B is going to be close to, if not actually dead over here. I think one more hit from Lorena is going to get us a kill. So after Tama Marine goes and Lorena goes, that is basically going to be one final hit, and the queen will end in the rage phase, right? So this is going to be it. Tama, we have Gonna be so burn as to just heal our entire team out just to play a little bit safe. One more basic, boom, B dies, and now this hit is gonna trigger Queen into the angry mode. So you can see, because we made use of the beast alive, we actually shaved off like what, 25 to 30% of her total health before even getting to the next phase. So this is the part when the moment we hit her, she'll go to the next phase, and you want to rush her down. You want to rush her down as fast as possible. It doesn't matter what you hit her with, just hit her. She will cleanse everything anyway, so don't use any of the ash trees. So this is when we get hit with the debuff again, and because we have saved up our Tamarine's ultimate, we're instantly gonna bring up our team, and after that first paralyze is where you start to run her down. But at this point, you do not want to wait anymore. You just want to go all in, run her down, boom, boom, right? Then this is gonna be paralyzed, no reaction, whatever. And then she's gonna get herself with the buff over here, but it's fine because we have Tamarine to buff strip. If she does not get buff strip, it's fine. We still have 2 more also. You can see over here, my 50% actually proc, so we didn't get a buff strip, which is gonna be a little bit scary. But it's fine. We still have, I believe, Isaria already has a buff strip herself. Okay, we have Angel of Light. Hopefully this buff strip lands over here. Okay, it unfortunately failed again, which is very, very bad because now she has greater attack up and greater defense. So I'm like praying to God that my Isaria can land the buff strip because this looks very, very scary now. So I'm praying, S3, please land, please land, please land, please land, please land, please land. Does it land? Does it land? Oh my God, I failed 15% consecutively 3 times. Yep, I actually failed 15% consecutively 3 times. So at this point, I was like, okay, am I actually going to lose here? Am I actually going to lose here? Hold up. Wait. 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 Oh, shit. Oh, shit. Okay, I actually lost here. Yeah, unfortunately, I actually lost here. Yeah, very, very unfortunate. So, editor, just help me crop the part out. Yeah, help me just add this to the end, right? So, just help me add this. Help me edit at this part where I failed the buff strip 3 times. Then just say, yeah, unfortunately, because of the fact that we failed our buff strip 3 times, we are actually going to lose this. Yep, because we failed our budget, we are actually going to lose this. And now this is going to be the actual attempt, right? Okay, anyways. So everything I said just now is going to be exactly the same. We're going to repeat the beast all over again. Just hopefully don't get 15% and fail buff strip 3 times consecutively. So do the exact same thing, right? Kill the beast, kill the beast, kill the beast. Get this to as low as possible. And then we just get this back in. And then you can see over here, now that we actually got ourselves the buff strip this time. Hold up. Let me see, show the buff strip, right? Okay, so this time we actually get ourselves the buff strip, right? So that was the only difference. As long as you don't get 15%, then it's gonna be completely fine for you. So now my AOL is gonna be fine because we actually do get ourselves the buff strip. We're just gonna let go of our S3, get the unbuffable. Alright, very, very good. And then Lorena is just gonna do as much damage as possible. I'm looking at the damage bar. I'm trying to see if we can wait for a defense break over here so we can do as much damage as possible. Okay, we get ourselves another thing, and then we are just basically gonna S2 into S3 so that we can get ourselves an instant Tama Marine ultimate just in case something goes wrong again. So we S2 into Tama, and then afterwards we S3 back into the Queen. Hopefully we get ourselves one more buff strip over here, and ideally letting the defense break. So I believe this does. Okay, it actually lands a defense break, and now this is where we can basically win. One more S2 pulls out my entire team. Commander Lorena, I'm pretty just so burn S3 into S1. And I think that should be game. I went for the Argy here just to deal. Did I went for the Argy? Okay, I decided to not go for the Argy. I just went for the so burn S3. And hopefully the S1 just gets us in. Okay, I believe it does. Okay, so burn S1 gets us in. So now you just have to survive, right? So this part is very straightforward. You have AOL, you have your Tower Marine, you have Ultimate. Now the Queen is invincible. You simply just stall until her turn begins again. The moment you have your Tower Marine Ultimate, she's just gonna cleanse everything, and then it's gonna be completely fine. Bring us up. Doesn't matter anymore because that part is just gonna be unsurable. So just stall a little bit more. Just basic, because this entire time is just you just can't kill it, right? So just wait, stall. Alright, continuously attack. Alright, just attack. You can't do anything. Attack. And her turn is going to begin. She's going to deal one last hit before she struggles a little bit. And then one final booms. And that is going to be how you kill Queen Azmakalis, right? So, with that, we have come to the end of every single nightmare raid. Or how I clear every single nightmare raid in my 1 week old or rather 1 month old account. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this little video of how I beat the entire nightmare raid using my 20 units, right, Carcanis. Queen, Jubilee, Arhakan, and Vera. Unfortunately, I did this all during off stream because that I just genuinely cannot find time to actually do this on stream because you do need quite a bit of RNG grind, and it is kind of grindy and is just kind of annoying. So I did this all off stream. Hopefully, it can be a little bit of help. As usual, please check out the Google document for the Nightmare Raid mode as well as Tristan Wolf and Moirai for a lot of Nightmare Raid content to help you guys with a clear as well. That is pretty much gonna be there. And now that I got this video out, I can finally get rid of these teams, right? Because now that this video is up, I'm gonna watch my whole video to see how I cleared last time, so I can actually remove 5 of these team slots. I'm gonna change them to PvP, and I'm probably gonna be re-gearing a lot of them in the next re-equip session because I've been trying to hold on for as long as possible to keep the exact same build that I used against Nightmare Queen, right? So this is finally and done out of the way. I've been studying for so long. That's pretty much it. Word of the day is gonna be the GOAT. Yep. Commander Lorena is absolutely the GOAT. Just raise her, right? So join this, join this, join this, join this. Use code POKKE for 10% off gamer subs. All the best. I'll catch up with you. See you guys next time. Take care.